TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, welcome in. It is Wednesday. Today is August the 28th. We've already had a couple of baseball games. Oh, I already had one winner, so that's a good thing. It's always good to start the day off with a winner. Makes your evening a little bit better, especially if you lose one. So it's all good. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights. Hello, man. It's always good to come on the show and already have a comment in the box. It's a good way to get stuff started. You know, it's starting to get to a point here where a lot of these games are important to some of these teams, and you know, some of these teams really got to start winning. Cleveland's got to start winning, and they pulled one out today, so good for them. So they tied for the lead yesterday because they lost, and then they win today, so they didn't get swept, even though they were behind 5-2, which goes to the conversations we were having in the chat yesterday about the Royals bullpen, right? So we'll see how things play out for the rest of the season. I don't expect Cleveland to win this division. I've said that several times now. So whatever, it is what it is. Boy, look at my shiny head today. Yeah, I guess it is what it is. Maybe it turns some of these lights a little bit away and it won't be so shiny. There we go. Maybe that's a little better. Anyhow, today's show we're gonna do some baseball stuff, and then those of you that want to hear some football talk, we're gonna start with college football because it starts tomorrow, and we'll start with a couple different things with college football. So kind of how the format of the show will go today, and then we'll see what we kind of progress to from there. So in terms of the games today, let me get my numbers back over here where I've got all this stuff open on the computer, and I can get to times, right? So I've got a few things to talk about. One at 6:40 is that game. So let's hit that game right away because it's a 6:40 game. And we'll get everybody up to speed on one of the spots I thought was an interesting spot to look at. So rotation number 973-974 today. This is the Oakland A's playing at the Cincinnati Reds. And there's a couple things here. Number one, when you're playing games like this, and especially think about what happened earlier in the day. You got the Cubs are playing the Pirates. Neither team is in the playoffs. The Cubs have a outside chance to make the playoffs. The Pirates, they're dead. So Skeens is pitching. So everybody's like, okay, this and the number's crazy. It's -170. It's way too high. Guys, look. One of the number one things that you see is hype around players and pitchers and different things. And we're going to talk about that with the Braves coming up. But in this case, you have the Pittsburgh Pirates. And let's go get the Pittsburgh Pirates numbers for just a second. So the Pirates are set up at theoretically to win 77 games. And they are base runs wise 2 games more lucky than where they should be. So they're really a 75 win team. That's where the Pirates are. The Cubs, they're an 82 win team, and they've been unlucky quite a bit. They should be an 86 win team. So that gap between 86 wins and 75 wins is a lot. So I know it's in Pittsburgh, but there's no way a Pittsburgh Pirate team can be favored over the Cubs with even pitchers, right? There's no way. So then, secondly, you come in and you go, okay, well, Hendricks is going to pitch. All right. Well, my rating on the WAR numbers that I use, he's a 0.1 or a 0.2. I think he grades out to a 0.1.5 between the two services that project the WAR numbers. So very, very much like a call-up guy, not anything special at all. Skeens is a 3.5 or something in that neighborhood. He's over a 3, but he's not quite a 4, so he's right in that neighborhood. Okay, well, he's going to gain a lot of traction and put them as a favorite, but he's not going to be able to get to a point where he's a minus 170. That's way too high. So going into the game, you got to already know that you're paying a Skeens service fee. That's what you're paying if you're paying for the Pirates. So my number on the game was Pirates minus 130. And that's a way better, more realistic number than minus 170, minus 165, whatever it went off at. So, but think about what happened in this game, which is why I'm bringing this up, is because you have a game that the Pirates got behind 3-1, and then the Pirates went ahead like 10-3. Well, the Pirates lost the game, I think 14-10. So then you have these spots in these situations with teams that are sort of on the fringe and or not in the playoffs and or just really struggling, where the consistency of performance is not predictable. So it's very hard to make bets on these games. So I caution everybody by me saying, hey, let's talk about the Reds and the A's, because neither one of these teams are going anywhere. But what I thought was interesting is the Reds are throwing a bullpen game. So Lodolo is supposed to pitch today, and Lodolo got put on the injured list. So obviously he's not going to play. He's not going to pitch. And that's a big loss to the Reds because, the Reds have Green on there now and Lodolo on. I don't know what they got going on pitching wise, and I don't think that they were really ready. They got a call up guy going to pitch tomorrow who's supposed to be pretty good. So we'll see what that looks like. But the reality is they got a bullpen game going today. They're starting Cruz, so he might go 1 or 2 innings, and then the next guy, and then the next guy, and the next guy. So what you run into in bullpen games is, let's just say the guy goes 2 innings and they got to go 9, right? So that's 4 pitchers plus 1. So that there's 5 pitchers to get them through this game. All 5 pitchers generally don't have their best stuff for the day. There's one guy that isn't going to have it, or there might be 2, and they get hit. So that's number one in this kind of a bullpen game. And what I mean by this kind of bullpen, the Reds don't do this. They're not a team that goes out and has a bunch of bullpen games like the Rays used to do this all the time. They're the ones who invented it. But now, like the Tigers, they're doing this a lot. They're doing a lot of bullpen games. So their guys are way more used to it. They're more comfortable with it. They can handle it better. They know what they're doing, but it's because it takes an adjustment a little bit up here when you're out on the mound to try to figure out kind of how to make this work. So that's number one. Number 2, Cruz, who's going to be the opener for this game. When I pulled up his numbers, I started. I don't know if I put him in there or not. Let's see. No, he doesn't have the greatest numbers in the last 28 days. Maybe I put him over there. Let's see. Yeah, there they are. So he's pitched in 10 games, 9.2 innings. In those 9.2 innings, he gave up 12 hits, 6 walks, 2 home runs. His SOPS plus is 152. He's 52% worse than an average pitcher. That's the opener. So if Oakland comes out and jumps out and gets on top, that wouldn't surprise me at all. So the Reds are going to have to play from behind. Well, they're going to face a guy today in Beto that nobody knows. He's sort of a weird guy because he doesn't throw 100 miles an hour, but he doesn't throw 90. But he's getting a lot of good quality performances. So, for example, Beto has thrown in his last 6 starts. He threw a 62 his last time, game score 62. That's what aces do. I mean, they throw great games. That's a 62 is a great game. But the time before that, it was a 75, then a 74. Then he threw a 54, and then a 20, and then a 58. His average is a game score 54. That's where he's at, 54. So 50 being average, 54 is well above average. That's a pretty good pitcher. So, for example, Michael Waka, who pitched today, he's a game score 54 for the season. Tanner Bybee, he's a game score 55 for the season. Who else is kind of in that number neighborhood? That's the only ones. Everybody else is kind of either well above or well below. So most of them are well below. So Beto is actually a pretty good pitcher. His metrics for Beto, 4.12 xFIP, 4.090. Nothing great. Those are average numbers. But his FIP number is what's impressive. It's a 2.47. That's a great number. That's a really low number. In fact, that's better than Bybee. That's better than David Festa. That's better than everybody else on the board except for Chris Sale, which we're going to talk about. So when we talk about Beto, 2.47 is really good. So how does he get 2.47 FIP? Remember, that's the guy. That's what they're doing. That's the 3 true outcomes. That's the measure of home runs, walks, and strikeouts. So if he has a very low number there, it means 2 things. It means he's not walking anybody, and it means he doesn't give up any home runs. So if we look at it, his home run rate over the last 30 days, 0. 0 home runs he's allowed in his performances. His walk rate is average. It's 3.5. His strikeout rate is average, but pushing a little better. It's 9 per 9 innings. So that's pretty good. It's one guy every inning he's striking him out. The other thing that was impressive with him is the batting average. The batting average against is 141. Okay, the league average is 240. Anything that you're under 200 is really, shit, we're having a hard time getting on base. And remember, he doesn't walk a lot of guys. So his whip rate, walks plus hits divided by innings pitched, 0.87. That number is an important number because what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out where we have opportunities to score runs. And if they got to work their ass off to get on base, that's hard enough to score runs, and he doesn't give up home runs. So this is a bad matchup for the Reds, right? Well, unless the Reds are hitting. If the Reds are hitting, then sometimes they can overcome some of this stuff. The other thing that was really neat, and I've never seen it yet. Now, of course, this is a shorter sample because he hasn't pitched 30 games. His hard hit rate is 9.1%. 9.1%. And 9.1% is like way low. To get into the top 25%, you got to just be 27%. And he's 9. Holy crap. That means they're topping the ball. They're not making hard contact. They're not hitting the ball hard off of this guy at all. And so you've got to figure his WPA is good, meaning that he's got way more good out pitches than he does bad pitches, right? So the answer to that question is he does. He's doing very well there as well. It's a 0.80. In fact, it's the highest one on the board today. So what I liked about this spot is you've got a pretty good pitcher that nobody knows. I think his name's Osvaldo or something. I don't know. It begins with an O. And he pitches very well, and he's pitching against a bullpen team. And then when you flip this over and you start to look at offense, and you go, Cincinnati Reds offense, they're kind of average. They're 12th in baseball. They're 20th in isolated power. And they're facing, the A's offense isn't really clicking right this second. They're 21st in offense. So you got a little bit of a deficit there, but maybe that changes when they can capitalize on one of those relief pitchers. But the line is what really gets you. So the line in this game Cincinnati, if I go there, Cincinnati's minus 117, minus 119. So really minus 118. We'll just say they're minus 118. Really? The bullpen for Cincinnati is better than this kid Beto? I don't think so. And my number in the game, where is it? So how I do these when I line these games out is I look at when it's a bullpen game. I'll take the bullpen result for 30 days and see what their WAR number is, and I factor those numbers in. So my numbers like Cincinnati minus 110, 115, 112, something like that. So there's a little bit of value here just in the line, but when you start to break down and look at the pitching performance, I think you got a spot here. So two things. When you have a bullpen game and you have a bad leadoff guy pitcher, opener, a guy that can get hit, a guy that can give up runs, maybe you play it in the first 5 innings. My other concern with Oakland is that I'm pretty sure Mason Miller threw last night, and I can check real fast. Let's go do that. Let's go find that number because I haven't done that for a little while. Bullpen usage by team. And if you don't do this kind of stuff, it's a benefit to be able to know who's available in the bullpen. And Oakland's really good in the bullpen when Mason Miller pitches, right? The guy throws 105 miles an hour. A's. So Mason Miller yesterday threw 31 pitches. He's not pitching today. So that means to me, I'm already at a little bit of a deficit of my offense. Where my edge is the pitcher. So let's play this in the first 5 innings, and let's go Oakland first 5 innings, small dog plus 105 plus 100, whatever you get the number at, and I think that makes sense, right? So I got a couple of questions. We got it says, hey, have a great night, Scott for Scott's Winners. Yeah, hey, well, it's good night to have a good winners. We had one yesterday. We had. The show's been doing pretty well. Like, when I make my bets, I don't bet everything that I give out on the show, but I do give out where I think there's value, where I think, and they've been winning. So that's good. It says, what are your thoughts on the Orioles tonight? Well, we're going to do that one because I'm going to break that one down in specifics because I think there's a spot there. And then Jay Barry says, Webby odds and Webby EV Plus tool are the best in the business. Look, I'll put that up against anything. I just will. I think that you can find value and you understand. And you know what? Sometimes, I do this every day, and 15 games a day, and I don't know how many games that means and how many things I type into there, and the computer figures out some of it on its own for me. But the reality is. The whole goal is to show people what it really looks like versus what you're seeing, because in baseball a lot of times, and it doesn't matter, football is kind of the same way, but you're going to see, because you're going to hear me talk a way different verbiages and way different things in football. But when we talk baseball, right, I'm using my created numbers in the different things. Now when we talk football, I'm using somebody else's numbers. But the reality becomes it's all about where do you find value and what you're going to do. And I think, Webby odds comes out and that's what I make them. And then I show what the morning lines are. And then the EV Plus tool is that broken into where then the percentage of value is based off of what that line looks like. So it just shows you in black and red. Red is EV negative plays, black are EV positive plays. So we want to go find the EV positive plays. And how I start my day is let's pull up all the EV positive plays and I make a list, right? Like here's just a little list. Those are the EV positive plays to start today. And then I start to break them down and look at really what does the pitching matchups look like, and where just because the numbers say one thing doesn't mean that I believe that this is the right spot to dive in, even though the number says you should. So I pick and choose where that goes. So Jay, I appreciate that plug for the Webby odds and the EV Plus tool. I spend a lot of time, and it took a long time to develop those things, but I like them, and hopefully you're getting good value out of those things. So anyway, I think Oakland A's are a spot that you can bet, and there is some positive, very little, but I think there's positive value there. The way I would play it again is in the first 5 innings, and go from there. I think that anytime, and this is just, and I don't do this, but anytime that you have a scenario where one team, you're going to ask them to do something they don't do, right? Don't ask them. So that's where you run into the Miami Marlins tonight, Florida Marlins, whatever you want to call them. They are facing a left-handed pitcher, and they just don't win against left-handed pitchers. The actual number for them on left-handed pitchers, if I could get to where I'm going here, they've played left-handed pitchers 45 times. Seems like a lot, and kind of is to some of the other teams that are on the list today. 45 times. They've won 9 times. They're 9-36 against left-handed pitchers. 9-36. I get it. It's Colorado. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You follow that and just bet it, because you're way more apt to win by just betting that trend or that scenario than you are trying to go against it. So I think that's a spot. And when I kind of handicapped it and looked at it, Meyer's pitching for Miami, and boy, he's been bad. But Freeland, he hasn't been great. But I will say this: he's good at home, and there's not very many times you're going to be able to find a Colorado pitcher that pitches good in Colorado. But he is 92 SOPS plus at home, so he's 8% better than an average pitcher at home. So I think that's a spot where you can just go and say, all right, I'm not going to do much work into this one. The numbers match up. He's a left-handed pitcher. Let's go. The Miami Marlins aren't pitching anybody that the Rockies can't hit, so let's go hit them and let's go see what we can do in that game. So that one I thought was a good enough to put on the show as something that was viable to play. Some of the other ones that I have on here, where's that Mets game? There. So the Mets play today, Arizona. And what's interesting in this game, I'm trying to get the time. Mets in Arizona, that's a 9:40 game. Mets in Arizona, what's interesting here is Severino, his SOPS plus is a 130, so that's not very good. 30% worse than an average pitcher. And he's facing Rodriguez today. So Eduardo Rodriguez is making his 4th start. In his 3 starts, he's a 105, so he's 5% better or worse than an average pitcher, so he's kind of average. And Severino is 30% better than an average pitcher. So my opinion is the Mets are the right spot here against the Diamondbacks. And I'm going, how is this possible where you've got Severino who's a 130 against a 105? So let's dive into this a little bit. And I think where I'm going to run into this is that Severino over his last 7 starts, it's a game score 50, average pitcher. Rodriguez over his 3 starts is a 50, average pitcher. And again, for those who haven't really followed me or talked to me or seen what I do, game score, when a guy starts his season, like at the very beginning of the year, he establishes his baseline in his first 3 starts, usually, maybe sometimes 4, but usually it's 3 starts. So what you're looking for is you're looking for an outlier performances, one that's higher than what he's going to normally do, one that's lower than what he's going to normally do, and then his average number. So he's done this. So his game score the last time was a 59. That's pretty good, Rodriguez. He had a game score of 51 the time before that, so pretty average. The game score his first time, 41. So there you go. 41, 51, 59. His average game score, 50. That's what he is. He's an average pitcher. So you got Eduardo Rodriguez, and you have Severino. Average pitcher, and the metrics show it. Everything shows it. So Severino 3.89, 3.92 xFIP in Sierra. Rodriguez 4.25, 4.65, a little bit higher, but still in the average category. And then when you start to kind of shift everything around, you go, okay, the stuff is what I'm worried about. And I know I don't hardly talk about stuff that often, but the reality is major league pitchers are graded on a lot of stuff. And you can look at a lot of different metrics. But one of the things I like is a pitcher who has average to good stuff, but pitches up, meaning that his pitcher plus numbers, how he uses his arsenal, where he puts the ball, his locations, that kind of stuff, are superior. Severino has a 110 pitcher plus. It means he's throwing 96, 97, 98 miles an hour. The ball moves. He's got great stuff. He pitches a pitcher plus rating is 102. So he pitches down. He doesn't pitch up to the stuff that he has. So he makes mistakes. And you can see it in his number. WPA is minus 37. There it is. He makes mistakes. So he gets hit because of that. Now, on the other side of that, you got Rodriguez, who's coming off of the disabled list, been on the disabled list all season. He's made 3 starts. His pitcher plus number, so measurement of his velocity, the spin rate, the movement on the ball, extension that he gets on his arm, all that stuff, all the measurements that you can have on the pitch itself is a 74. It's one of the worst ones in Major League Baseball. 74. That's terrible. Chris Flexen's worse than that. But there's not many people that are worse than that. So I don't know who's a bad pitcher today. Like Freeland's not very good with stuff, right? He's an 83. So he's worse than Freeland. Walker, who was pitching for Philadelphia, he's an 88. So, when you start to think about some of this stuff and you go, holy crap, what's he throwing? What's he putting up there? Well, he's putting up there hittable stuff. So he must put the ball in the right spot or he's going to get crushed because it's not good stuff, right? So that's number one. That's what worries me about this game where I think the Mets are kind of the right side. So then I started looking at it and we talked about the situational stuff. But the interesting part of the situational stuff is, the Mets aren't bad against left-handed pitching. They're actually pretty good. They're 20-17, and when I pulled them up, offensively here, where is the Mets? There they are. So the Mets, they're 15th in offense, so kind of average, but at times they lead the league in average, but not right now. They're 15th. They're kind of middle of the pack, but they're facing a middle of the pack pitcher. The Diamondbacks have been like going crazy. Well, 2 things. One, they really missed Marte in that lineup, right? They missed Marte a lot. So he's MVP kind of player that they're missing. And then they miss Christian Walker. Now he hasn't been there for a while, and they also have their catcher out. So a lot of Moreno or whatever his name is, a lot of these guys for the Diamondbacks aren't there. So they're getting performances from guys like the guy that's leading them right now is Perdomo, and they picked up off the scrap heap Bell, first baseman. And they got him from Miami. He was with the Nationals. He can't hit, but he kind of goes through these spurts. So you've got Perdomo and Bell. Now Suarez and Gurriel are their regular guys, but they're not like massive numbers. Whereas Lindor is going crazy for the Mets. Lindor's hitting. He's a 4.5 right now offensive WAR. He's doing great. And the Diamondbacks' advantages are that even though they don't have a lot of superstar power right now, and they don't have a lot of superstar performances either, they don't really have a lot of drawbacks to their offense. So, a lot of times you'll hear me say, hey, looking at the lineup and going across the 9 guys that go out there, how many guys are pulling away from their offense, meaning that their offensive productivity, offensive WAR number is -1 or more. They don't got anybody. So, but they don't really have much positive either. So that's kind of where I sit there and go, well, they're sort of death by paper cut, this team, where the Mets are big home run guys, right? I mean, you got Lindor, and you're going to have Martinez, and you're going to have Vientos, and you're going to have Alonso and those guys. And if they hit the home runs, you're in trouble. And this is a ballpark where you can hit home runs in. So I think that you're situationally set up where you can run into a problem for Rodriguez against the Mets. He doesn't have out pitches. He's not a strikeout guy. He can be, even when he was with the Red Sox and stuff, there was times that he was a strikeout guy, and then there's other times he wasn't. So he was great with the Tigers, and then he wasn't. So I think that he's not that guy yet. So it takes 4, 5, 6 starts for these guys to be who they were or as good as they were. And maybe he's missed all season. Maybe he's never going to be that guy. Maybe he's going to be a shell of that guy. Well, I think the Mets are good enough to beat that, right? We've been talking about how great the Arizona Diamondbacks are and how great they've done on turning things around and making a run and doing all this stuff. They've been really good. But you know what? They've done all that, which makes them just as good as the Mets. That's how good the Mets are. And nobody's talking about the Mets. The Mets, if I go look at my numbers, the Mets, Fangraphs and Baseball Prospectus says they'll win 84 games. And Arizona, they think are going to win like 91 games. But where the Mets kind of grow is they get to a point where the Mets, base runs wise, are 3 games unlucky. They should have won more. 4 games. They should be at 88 wins, the Mets, by the end of the season. And that's how good they are. The Arizona Diamondbacks are 4 games lucky. So they should be at 87 wins. So that's where I come up with the idea that, look, the Mets and the Diamondbacks are the same team. And the reality becomes is when you look at these lineups tonight and when you kind of look at where they're going to go, what lineups would you rather have? I guarantee you're going to go, I would rather have the Mets lineup than the Diamondbacks lineup. And then when it comes to pitchers, you got a guy that just came off the disabled list, made a good start. He's an average pitcher at best against the guy that started all day, throws 100 miles an hour. I'll take that every time. So I think you have some value in the Mets. And that's kind of where I was going with this. And then my number on this game, where is it? Mets. So I have Mets -110. And I know the number's like Arizona -120. So I got Mets as a small favorite, and you can get them as a small dog. I think that's worth a play, and I think that's some EV positive advantage there. So I think you play the Mets. So anyway, long-winded version of how I came up with that, but that's really what I'm looking at with that game. Now, there was a question on the Orioles tonight, and we're going to get into that, but I'm going to do the Braves first, and then we'll do the Orioles. So one of the things that I do to create my numbers, right? You have to take the winning percentages of these two teams and go, hey, this team wins. Winning percentage is 550, and this team's winning percentage is 525. They play each other all the time. They play each other. So the team that's got the 550 winning percentage, how many times should you expect them to win over this team? And that starts your line creation. That gives you a number. It says, hey, winning probability of that team is X. Well, whatever that X is, that's the baseline that you start your money line from. And then you adjust that money line based on the pitchers that are pitching. So where I get that number from is from Fangraphs. And I'm going to go to Fangraphs so that I can tell you exactly what we got going on here. And where I get them from is the projected WAR numbers. Okay. So, and the reason that I use WAR is because it's an encompassing number, but I'm not comparing earned run averages. I'm not comparing FIP numbers, Sierra numbers, innings pitched. That's on a different thing. I want to know the value of this pitcher to this team and how he's going to help them win. Well, what does WAR measure? Wins above replacements. That's the perfect thing to use. So I'm going to go here and we're going to pull up pitchers, and I'm pulling. There's two of them. Steamer does one. Well, there's actually more than one, but I only use two. And then what I do is I average the two together because sometimes they're so far off from each other that one may be more right than the other one. So I just average them together. But the whole purpose of this exercise is because I'm going to talk about the Braves. And the Braves are throwing Chris Sale tonight. I don't think people understand Chris Sale. And the reason I say that is because when I pull up Steamer and I just pull up pitchers and I go, okay, and I'm sorting them by team right now. These are the best pitchers in baseball. Number one pitcher in baseball, Chris Sale. His WAR is 6.20. That's on Steamer. That's the next guy is Skubal, then Wheeler, Crochet, Reagans, Christopher Sanchez, Logan Webb, Dylan Cease, George Serby, Logan Gilbert. That's your top 10. And that's your top 10 that shows up for Steamer, right? So 6.2. How many other guys were in 6? 0, none, not any. So then you go to Zips, and I use their projections. And I always use the updated ones because the updated ones take into effect what they've already done. So it includes what they've done for the season and projects out the rest of the season and combines it. It's awesome. So I pull up Zips. Number one pitcher in baseball, Chris Sale. WAR 6.2. I don't have to average the two together. It's 6.2, right? And then it's Chris Sale, Tariq Skubal, same. But they've got Logan Webb, which the other one had Wheeler. And then they got Logan Gilbert, Christopher Sanchez, Cole Ragans, George Kirby, Dylan Cease, and Tyler Glasnow. Garrett Crochet is not in the top 10 here. So that's why you average them together so that you can get some good results out of it. My point to you is this. Tonight in Minnesota, the best pitcher in Major League Baseball is on the mound. He's the best. So then you go and say, what's the number look like? It should be an astronomical number. Well, the number opened at 140. And then earlier, like right before the show, where is it? Right before the show, it was minus 125 for Chris Sale. 125. If you're not jumping on that, holy shit. I don't know what we're doing. He's the best pitcher in baseball. Minus 125. Okay, give it to me. Just sign me up. I'm there. I'm not doing any handicap. I will in a minute. But the point is, some of this stuff is not that hard. Don't make it hard. Make it so that you have common sense. Common sense is, I got the best pitcher in baseball. Now, certainly he might lose. It doesn't matter. I mean, but you've got the best pitcher in baseball at minus 125. I'll take it. So what my number showed on this game, and again, they're playing Minnesota in Minnesota, so it's a tough opponent. And my number is Chris Sale minus 190. Big number. Well, how did I get to that big number? Well, both teams are relatively even. Chris Sale's a 6, remember? David Festa isn't even a 1. Not a 1. So what's happened here is in the projected WAR numbers, David Festa hasn't pitched enough to be a 2 or a 3 or whatever he could become. He's only pitched, 6, 7 times. So he's developing his number. He's like a 0.6. So he has to keep growing and growing to get to this, whatever he's going to be. But let's look at it from a different level. Let's go back and actually look at the results of these guys. Now, I will say this. The number is not minus 125 anymore. The number right now, where is it? The number is 137 at circa 134. We'll just say it's 135. Look, man, 135 is still on sale compared to 190. 190 is good value. You got to bet sale. So then I go look at it from the perspective of, let's see what these guys are like. So first of all, Chris Sale, he's pitched 24 games. 24. He's won 17 times. 17-7. And I know you think, okay, well, that's what they all do. All these good guys do that stuff, right? It's not true at all. Look at what Zach Wheeler does. Zach Wheeler is barely over 500 in terms of his results. He's like 16-14 or something similar to that number. Maybe 15-13 based on his number of starts. They haven't made 28 starts yet. So, but something like that. But when you're 17-7, that's pretty good. I mean, your chance of losing is much smaller than your chance of winning by betting the other side. And when you bet the other side and you go, hey, David Festa, how many times you pitched? He's pitched 7 times. He's won 3 times. He's 3-4. So a little less than 500. If he wins, he'll be 500. But then you start to look at kind of swinging this out and you go, oh, David Festa is not a bad pitcher. Over his last 28 days, his SOPS plus is better than Chris Sale's. It's a 75. He's 25% better than the average pitcher. So then why am I wanting to bet on Chris Sale? Well, because Chris Sale's 90, and that's the worst he's been all season. He's a 65 for the season. And then when I flip this back over and start looking at it from a different level, Chris Sale's metrics, 2.49 xFIP, 2.85 Sierra. And remember when we said, oh my God, Beto's number was 2.47 FIP, which was really great. And we said, well, Chris Sale's was the only one that was better. Chris Sale's is 1.19. Are you kidding me? 1.19? So remember, FIP, fielding independent pitching. He is controlling the game from the mound because he doesn't walk anybody, he strikes everybody out, and he doesn't give up home runs. So let's look. Strikeout rate, 12.46 strikeouts per 9 innings. Top 25% in baseball. It's actually probably in the top 5% in baseball. Arrighetti over the last 30 days has been really good too. And I was on him earlier today. 13 strikeouts per 9 innings for Arrighetti. And he struck out, I don't know, when I was watching the game. I had him in the first 5 innings. I know he had like 7 strikeouts in the first 5 innings, so I know he's doing really good. But Sale, 12 strikeouts, 12.46. Walk rates average, 2.37. But getting closer to the best of 25% of baseball, 2.3 is pretty good. How many home runs did he give up? 0. None. 0. Where he's been having some difficulty is, for whatever reason, he's been unlucky. And let's explain this because this is a perfect spot. His batting average against is 283. Well, a guy that's got those metrics should never have a batting average against of 283. 242 is league average. So how does somebody with those metrics have a worse batting average allowed than league average? Because he's phenomenal. Here's how. So BABIP, BABIP. And I don't talk about this too much, but this is a perfect spot for this. Batting average on balls in play. And Jay Barry, if you're listening still, this is why I put it on my sheet. So what that tells you is a ball gets hit and it's in play. So it's in the field somewhere. What's the batting average on those balls hit? For Chris Sale over the last 30 days, it's 436. Holy shit. 436 on balls that are put in play. So you guys watch the games. What happens when balls are hit and put in play? Where do they most of the time go? Most of the time they go to a damn fielder and they throw them out, or they go catch a fly ball or whatever. So this cycle of BABIP is just like everything else that happens in baseball. There are times when shit just doesn't go your way, and balls find those openings. They find ways to get through, but that's short-lived. So here's where a lot of this happens. We're just saying he's got the best metrics on the board today, Chris Sale. BABIP-wise, if that cycles back the way it should and goes to the league average, these guys are going to be out. They're not going for hits. They're going for outs. And he's overdue for those things to happen. Because right now, 4.36, 436 batting average on BABIP. Holy crap. And he's not giving up any home runs. So he's just been unlucky on where the balls have been hit. So what I'm trying to tell you is that doesn't stay true. It doesn't stay that way forever. It'll run bad. It'll run good and cold. Right now, it's running bad for him. So he's going to get that big return. And it could happen tonight. Maybe Minnesota wakes up and they hit, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 balls over 100 miles an hour, but they're hit right at the right line drive to third base, fly out to right field, one hop hard hit ball to second base. That stuff's going to happen. And Chris Sale is in a position to take advantage of it. And when you have the best pitcher in baseball in these spots, these are no brainers, guys. I mean, these are the spots you got to bet. So anyway, that's Chris Sale and Chris Sale's story, and a little bit as to where some of these different, because I don't know how to explain it other than there's a reason for everything in Major League Baseball. You just got to find it, right? So some of them are WPA problems, winning percent added, meaning, Chris Sale doesn't have that problem. 0.66 to the good. He's got way more good pitches than he does bad pitches, but the BABIP thing's killing him. And he's still 17-7, and the metrics are great, and he doesn't give up any home runs, right? So that's how good Chris Sale is. Best pitcher in baseball today, right now. And you can get him minus 130, I guess now. When I paid it was minus 118, 120, whatever I got it at. But I'm telling you, I think this is the right side. David Festa, we talked about how he was good, right? We said he was a 75 SOPS plus. His metrics are good too. 314, 325, 294. He strikes out guys too, 11.86. So why am I going against him? Well, there's a problem. His ground ball rate's not very good. His WPA's even. So he throws just as many bad pitches as he does good pitches. His game score is a problem. His game score doesn't match his results, and that's normal for young pitchers. So he threw a 47 the last time out, but I'm not worried about being under where he's supposed to be, because his last 7 starts game scores a 48. 48. He's a below average pitcher, and 47 is kind of right in line with that. So think about it. A below average pitcher, major league best pitcher, minus 125, minus 130. What the hell are we doing? You should be all over this. So So then we go look at offense, right? We go say, what's going on offensively? So the Braves in the last 20 games are 12-8. So they're doing pretty good. They didn't let Philadelphia run away. And as a matter of fact, they stayed right with them. And not only that, they didn't drop out of the wild card race. They're doing pretty good. They're hanging in, even though Austin Riley got hurt and all the other stuff that's going on with that team. And Minnesota should be in the Kansas City Royals catbird spot, but they're not. They're 9-11 in the last 20 games. They're you know what the Royals, just think about it. How many big games have the Twins won? How many big teams have they beat? Do they beat the Yankees? No. Do they beat the Astros? No. Who do they beat? Well, they beat the White Sox. They beat the Tigers. You know what I mean? They beat these teams that aren't any good. And now they're playing the Braves and they can't beat them either. So now you got Chris Sale on the mound. They're not going to beat Chris Sale. So then you go look at it and you go, all right, the over the last month and a half, the Minnesota Twins are -7% against left-handed pitchers on offense compared to another offense, or not another offense, an average offense. They're worse than an average offense by 7% in weighted runs created plus against left-handed pitchers over the last, say, a month and week and a half or so. So I sit here and go, this is just unbelievably no-brainer. And then I go to offense and look at it from another level. Isolated power, Minnesota Twins 13th, Atlanta Braves 16th. I get it that the Braves aren't the best offense in the world. But if you got a good pitcher, you don't have to score a lot of runs. And I said the other day that the Braves were being carried by Merrifield. And then what do? He goes on and gets 5 hits or something stupid. It's like unbelievable how some of these guys step up and do stuff. Well, Matt Olson's starting to hit too. So now they got a couple guys hitting that's helping that team. And where the Twins are running into problems, they got guys that hit. They always have guys that hit. They got 5 guys over 1 WAR. That's a lot. But they also have 5 guys that are 1 WAR or worse pulling away from their offense. So they got a fight going on between guys that are hitting and guys that aren't. And it's kind of messing with what they can actually do on offense. And their bullpen hasn't been good. So the Braves bullpen's been really good. You got Sale on the mound tonight. And I think that this is one of those spots where, hey, my number said it was -190. The number's -130. You got value. Go bet it, right? That's the Braves game. And then we wanted to talk about the Baltimore Orioles. So sorry, Jay, it took me a minute to get there. So this one's an interesting matchup too. And it's interesting in a sense that when I first started looking at it, I go, Corbin Burns is on the mound tonight and he's facing Walker Buehler. And Walker Buehler's in a pick'em, -105, 105. No way. I'm like, there's no way. I know the Dodgers are good, but the Dodgers got beat yesterday. And I bet the Dodgers yesterday because I didn't like Cole Irvin's matched up against the Dodgers offense. And of course, they go out and score 2 runs and lose 3-2 on 2 home runs, right? Walker Buehler. Do you know Walker Buehler? And I talked about this a little bit earlier in some of these breakdowns. And his projected WAR number is 0.2 and 0.1. Walker Buehler is not the ace of the Dodgers. He's not an ace pitcher at all. He's as good as a call-up pitcher. That's what he is. In fact, he's probably worse than that. Metrics prove that he's worse than that. He gets hit and he walks everybody. So he's not striking guys out. He's getting hit all the time. Where I ran into a little bit of problem with this game is I thought Corbin Burns was pitching better than what he is. So let's get into it. Starting pitchers, go to situational. So 191 SOPS plus. That's horrible, right? We've established that 100 is the number. And if you're 191, that means you're 91% worse than an average pitcher. That's Walker Buehler. And that's him controlling the opponent's offense, SOPS plus. That's your on-base percentage, sluggage percentage, rounded into a predictive form plus stabilized across all the stadiums. So 190, 191. That's not very good at all. For the season, he's a 156. He's not been good since he's come back off the disabled list. Let me just put it that way. He's not the same pitcher. Not got any good reason. I think he's pitched one good game of all the times he's pitched. That's it. Facing Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns for the season is a 78 SOPS plus, 22% better than average pitcher. That's pretty good. So Corbin Burns is a good pitcher. However, his last 28 days is a 134. So he's 34% worse than average pitcher. That's not good to be betting on a guy that's 34% worse than an average team. I mean, it's just not. Normally, I would take that and go, I don't want to go here. Maybe I want to go over in this game and think about an over because maybe both of these guys get hit. But then I start thinking regression. Because Corbin Burns is not somebody that he's a former Cy Young pitcher and it's been around the block. I think he's mid 30s or not mid 30s, but young 30, 31, 32, 31, something like that. Pitched a lot, been around the block, pitched for, the Brewers. So he's pitched against the Dodgers. It's not like he hasn't seen them before, doesn't know what they have to offer. The Baltimore Orioles love right-handed pitchers. They're 57 wins, 38 losses, so almost 20 wins above average against right-handed pitchers. So then I started looking at it and go, well, let me see the metrics. So metrics-wise, Burns is 4.49, 4.43, 4.08. All right, not normal Burns metrics. Those are average numbers. So, okay, he's an average pitcher right now going against a pretty good Dodgers offense. So then I look at Buehler, 6.80, 7.05, 6.71. Are you kidding me? You got a 2-run edge from Burns to Buehler. So I go, all right, maybe there's some stuff I need to start digging into. I go back and look at Burns' starts. Last time he pitched, he threw a game score 37. And the time before that, it was a game score 8. So he threw an 8, a 37, a 61, and a 36. 3 of his last 4 starts have been no good. However, normally a guy like Burns, who's an ace, he's a good, big, normal, his game score for the season's a 56. You change those other ones to like an average score for him, he's 57, 58 game score for the season. He's pushing what aces do. He's gonna progress to his mean average. Over his last 3 starts, he's a game score 35. Over his last 7 starts, he's a game score 46. For the season, he's a 56. So law of average to the mean tells me he's very ripe to go through a great game. So now I'm looking at it going, those average metrics might not be so average. They might be pretty good, especially if the Dodgers aren't hitting real well. So let's look at the Dodgers on offense. So I go look at the Dodgers on offense, and first thing that says they're 14th. Well, I thought they'd be a little higher than 14th because, I thought they were out there just killing the ball and scoring all these runs, and you see all the highlights and all the stuff from all these players. And then I look at it and go, well, Ohtani, 3.0 WAR. Okay, great. We know Ohtani's good. The next guy that's helping drive the bus is Enrique Hernandez. Well, where's Betts? Where's Muncy? Where's all these guys that are supposed to be waking up and hitting the ball? Where's Smith? Where's Freeman? He hasn't been playing. And then I look at it and I go, let's stretch these guys out. They have 3 guys that are over 1 WAR, and then they got 3 guys that are pulling away from them. They're an average offense, 1.1 WAR. That's the 1.5. That's where they are. Now, I will say that the Orioles offense is struggling right now. They've got 1 guy over 1 WAR, 5 guys pulling away. But what I like is they have an opportunity against Bueller, who just gets crushed, right? So batting average against 344, whip rate 2.45. Holy shit, that's 2.5 guys on base per inning. That's a lot of opportunity. For 4.91 strikeouts. Balls in play, all advantages to Baltimore. They're not going to strike out. They're going to hit the ball. 8.59 walk rate. I mean, you're kidding me, right? He's got two, basically, he's walking double the guys he's striking out right now. So there's we talked about stuff plus, and then we talked about pitcher plus, and we talked about pitching up. Stuff plus for Bueller right now, 86. Because, of course, 100 is kind of where you want to be. Anything above 100 is really good. Anything in the 90s is decent. If you're below 90, that's not very good. It's the worst of baseball. So 88, it's not very good. But pitcher plus, so how do you use your arsenal? 86 was his pitcher plus. 88 is his pitching plus number. It's like he's not using what he has to any type of advantage. There are guys, so for example, Chris Sale, perfect guy to talk about. You know what his pitcher plus number or his stuff plus rating? His stuff plus is 85. That's below average. But the way he uses it, he pitches all the way up to a 105. That's amazing that he pitches that well with the stuff that he has. And then you look at a guy like Walker Bueller, 86. He's throwing 88. So he's extremely hittable. And Burns still has great stuff. Burns' stuff measures the highest on the board, 120. 120. He throws hard. His slider moves. He's got great stuff. He's pitching down to a 104. He should pitch to like a 109, 110, and then he's dominant and great. But I'm expecting him to pitch really well. The progression system is in play tonight for Corbin Burns. And, I'll pick him to a small favorite. What's the number now in that game? If I go over there and look at it. Burns minus 107, 105. It's still a pick 'em. It's still a pick 'em game, guys. And you can't tell me that lining up the Baltimore offense doesn't scare Bueller. I shouldn't say it that way. He's not scared of those guys. The reality is the guys in the dugout who are managing the game for the Dodgers, that they need to have a secondary plan because it could likely be 5-0 after 2 innings. If Baltimore does certain things right. So we'll see. But I think the value there is on Baltimore. Hopefully, Jay Berry, that helps answer the question about the Baltimore Orioles tonight. I really think the Orioles are the right side. And it's really when these good pitchers have one game that's bad, a lot of times they fix it the next time out. But when they have 2 games that bad, they hardly ever go 3 or 4. And that's the difference between what aces are and what average pitchers are. Average pitchers have good starts, bad starts, good starts, bad starts, 2 good starts, 2 bad starts. It just kind of goes like that. Your best pitchers in baseball don't. They don't do that. What they do is they go out and they'll throw 4 or 5 great starts and have a bad one. 4 or 5 great starts, have a bad one. 4 or 5 great starts, have a bad one. That's the way it works. So I think Burns is in for a good start. I think that Betts isn't driving the bus. Freeman's not driving the bus. Teoscar Hernandez not driving the bus. Smith isn't driving the bus. Muncy's not driving the bus. So this is a good time to try to pick on the Dodger offense. And even though the Baltimore offense isn't clicking to its best, I think that there's a spot here where Bueller allows to be a little bit of gas on that fire to ignite it a little bit, right? They need that, Baltimore needs to get a walk or a hit or something and get a couple guys on and then get a base hit, and then all of a sudden everything breaks loose. And then you'll see Baltimore start scoring a bunch of runs again, get their offense going. That's kind of how it works. It's all momentum and it's all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's kind of what I got for baseball today. Hopefully we went over some good things. I'm trying to look. Oh, look, Oakland's ahead, beat 1-0. Maybe they can hold on to that and get that first 5 in there for us on that spot. Oh, and another spot that we should talk about. The game's already started, so we're not going to be betting it, but it's the New York Yankees. So they are a big misnomer, okay? And what I mean by that is power ranking wise and quality of team. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong. My number in this particular game is not 200 on the road against the Nationals. That's too high. So yes, the Yankees are a good baseball team, and yes, the Yankees score lots of runs. But you know what? The Yankees scored lots of runs when Judge is hitting, and he is currently, and Soto's hitting, and he's not. So that doesn't mean he won't. That team is those two players. I mean, I don't know how else other than to say it, which is a scary thing to think about when they go into the playoffs, because they could have an early exit because they don't have dominant pitching, and they got guys that can pitch. And they got guys that can pitch well. They got guys that can throw, 96, 97, 98 miles an hour. They got guys that can do stuff. They got kind of bulldogish guys like Rodon or whatever. But if Rodon's not on, they're done because they need to hold because the other teams are going to be able to pitch. And the truth be known, they'll pitch to Soto and then they'll walk Judge, and then they don't care who bats fourth and fifth, and say they don't care. They'll get those guys out. So Yankees in the playoffs, the World Series run, I'm not sure they're the right team. We'll talk a little bit more about kind of playoffs and World Series and stuff like that in a little bit. But I'm not sold on the Yankees as a World Series type favorite kind of team. They don't have enough depth in the lineup structure to get there. I think Baltimore's a better team, put it that way. I don't know that they got better pitching, but I think they're a better team. And that the depth of their lineup is better. That they can score from the 7th, 8th, and 9th hitters, and the Yankees really just don't. And that's a problem for the Yankees. And they're losing tonight. I mean, they lost yesterday, and they lost to Patrick Corbin, and they had Garrett Cole in them. You can't do that, I mean. Obviously, baseball is baseball. Stuff's going to happen. Any team can beat any team at any time. But the truth of the matter is that shows a lot of flaws in that Yankee team. There's just a lot of flaws there. All right, so that's it for baseball talk. So I wanted to talk a little bit of football, college football. And I want to flip this over to where's my lines for college football. We'll get over here. So there's a couple of things here. Number one, college football is getting ready to start on Thursdays, and there's a lot of stuff happening in college football where I think one of the number one things that people do is they're going to go and say, I want to look at returning productivity and production for a team. And when there's good productivity and production, I want to bet on that team against a team that has limited. Makes sense. But don't ever forget what you're betting, because college football is not pro football. The NFL is a totally different sport to bet than college football, even though it's a similar game. The reason I say that is because college football is about quality of athlete, A, and then quality of how that athlete is given instruction to become better. That's what college football is. The NFL, these are athletes that are all similarly the greatest athletes in the world. And then it's a matter of, how do they fit the offense, gearing plays up, matchups. Where can you take advantage of matchups? So, for example, there's a lot of people out there that are talking about some of these football games, and and you've seen a lot of action in some of them already, and some of the line moves and some of the different things that are going on. So Thursday, North Carolina plays in Minnesota. So one of the things that, I think, a lot of times happens is people get caught up in their handicap. And what I'm saying here is this line was Minnesota. I think at one time back in the summer, Minnesota was like -3. And then, I'm showing an opening number of -1.5 for Minnesota. Now it is minus anywhere from -1.5 to 2.5, depending on where you're at, in favor of North Carolina. But what's that? So when you have a line move like that, it's one of two things. Generally, it's one of two things. The first thing is there's news that creates the number, meaning that a quarterback's not playing, a key running back's not playing, whatever. The kids got sick, and there's stuff going on, whatever. So there's several things news related that adjust the number, because the truth is the line came out. Here's what it is. The market says that's not the right number because there's news. There's information that original number doesn't have in it, so it needs to be changed based off the betting flow to X, whatever that is, right? Or you could have a service that goes out like a Raz Sports or Joey Tunes or some of these other places, and says, hey, this is what we're betting. So all these guys go make these bets, and then the sports book alter the numbers based off of line, based off of actionable bets that were made on it. So when I'm looking at this game with the Minnesota game, for example, there's no news. What you know about this game? I'm going to go back over here for a second. What you know about this game, you knew about this game 3 months ago. So there is no reason that this number is different from what the opening line was. Then a service gave it out, or people just go and say, North Carolina beat Minnesota last year, so North Carolina's going to beat Minnesota this year. So I'm going to use the phrase that Jeff Dawson, in my opinion, made famous. He says, guys, first thing you got to do when you're betting these sports like this is you got to respect the opening number. So -1.5 is now -2.5 to the other side. Does that respect the opening number? Nope. So the market thinks it knows more than the sports book. And that's fine. They're allowed to do that, but keep an eye on this kind of stuff, because the reality is the opening number is way more sharp than where the line is today. So one of the things that I do is I'm going to make a list of things, and I showed you this list of stuff that I'm on here, and you can see I've got Minnesota. Oops, where is it? There it is. I've got Minnesota circled on here. Why is that? Well, the reason I have Minnesota circled on here is because I want to see if that number will get to 3, because the number right now, it's at 1.5, it's at 2, it's at 2.5. Maybe it'll get to 3. That's the buy point for me to be on Minnesota, because when you're betting on a game like this, the line's already moved. The side that said North Carolina was the right side was getting +1.5. That moved to the point where now it's -1.5 or 2.5. No. If you could have bet the number at +1.5, you don't certainly bet it at -2.5. You don't do that. So no, the only way you can look at that game is the Minnesota side. And now when you're looking at it from the Minnesota side, you want to get the best number you possibly can, or you pass on the game. I'm hoping that makes sense to people. So remember, the line is moving because a service bet it or whatever. It's not betting. It's not moving because there's news around the game. So the respect to the opening number is not there. So now it moved. You don't follow that move. You bet against that move or you pass. So if you're going to bet against that move, you take them as a home dog of 3 points or more if you can get them. Today's Wednesday. So you wait. And this game goes tomorrow. So you wait and 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 you wait. Don't bet it at 2.5. You either get 3 or you don't bet it at all. The North Carolina side is your if you like that side, just watch the game. If you want to make money, you got to bet on the Minnesota side, but you don't bet it until you get 3 points. And football works that way, where the key number is the most important part of making the bet. So 2.5 is not. Let's see, 2.5 is an EV minus compared to 3 of about 25%. It's a big number. So there's so much importance in the 3 that you never, ever take 2.5 as a dog. Ever. You just don't. Right? So and that's kind of where I was going with some of this to start. So one of the first things I'm doing is I've got my list, right? And guys, there's a ton of football games. And I know I get it. A lot of these games you probably don't you probably haven't looked too much at. And what I mean by you haven't looked too much at is let me get this thing refreshed up here a little bit. Let me go to up here. So you probably didn't spend a lot of time looking at Rutgers and Howard, I'm going to guess. But that's a bet if you can find the value in the line. So how do you find the value in the line? The answer to that question is you need to know who the teams are and what value the teams are and create your own number. So I do all this baseball stuff. And I trust Webby odds. I know how they're made because I make them. I know what the EV Plus tool does, and I know where the value comes in. But it's all value based off of a line made by me. And then I trust that number compared to the line that comes out from the sports book. So I have that same thing in football. But I don't make that number. I buy somebody else's number. And I said it yesterday, or maybe it was not yesterday. I can't remember. Maybe it was Monday. I think it was on Jeff's show. There was a lot of people on that show. And it's not that we don't have a lot of people here. There's 220 people here on this show. So I use Kenny White's numbers. Okay. Now, I don't know if you guys know who Kenny White is. I'm sure you've heard the name. Kenny White is a former bookmaker who created the numbers and makes numbers. That's what he does. I don't use him for baseball. I don't use him for basketball. I don't use him for hockey. I don't use him for any other number except for football numbers. And it just by happenstance that I use his numbers because there's a lot of people that have numbers. I like Steve Fezzik's numbers for football, for NFL football. But I don't like when he releases them, and I don't like how you try to get them. So I have my own numbers for NFL because I can deal with 32 teams while I'm dealing with baseball. I can't deal with FBS schools and FCS schools, and that's just, it's too much for one guy to try to handle all of that. So I don't. I let him do that homework, right? Kenny White, you do that homework, right? So Kenny's going to come out and he's going to say, here's where the line should be for all these games. And for example, Howard and Rutgers, Kenny White's number is 31.5. What's the number in that game? I don't know. It's 36.5. 36.5. That's 5 points. So if you can get 36.5, is that a good number? Well, do you want 37? Can you get 37? Is 37 a better number than 36.5? It's more of a key number, 37, than 36.5. So my point is this. Just because it's Howard and Rutgers doesn't mean there's not value in that game. You have to find somebody or somewhere where you can get legit value for an FCS school or an FBS school. I'm sorry. So in this case, if I go back to where my number's at here, here we go. 31.5. He's got it. Rutgers 42-10. So that kind of helps you with going and say, okay, there's a possibility that I might have a play there. So if you go through and you go through all these games that are getting ready to happen, and you go, let me go find out a little bit about Howard. Who's their mascot? What city are they in? What state are they in? What kind of team are they? And then you can start breaking this down a little bit, and you can go, oh shit, I kind of understand. That makes sense. I get it. Rutgers is going to have better athletes, better coaches, better facilities, better this, that, and that. But by how much? More than 5 touchdowns? I don't know. Kenny White doesn't think so, right? So the point where I'm going is, let sometimes other people do the bidding for you on certain things. You don't have to be an expert at knowing who the hell Howard is. What you have to do is you have to know what a good bet is. So where do you find out what a good bet is? You got to know what a legit power ranking number looks like to give you a legit line to shop it against what other books are going to offer you. And there's a lot of games Thursday that are like that, right? You got Howard and Rutgers, and Bowling Green plays Fordham, and Central Florida plays New Hampshire, and Wake Forest plays North Carolina A&T, and just right down the line, bing, 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 bing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go through that stuff because I know that it's Wednesday night. Nobody wants to hear a breakdown of goddamn Howard, right? Nobody wants to hear that. So first thing I told you was, I'm waiting on Minnesota. If I can get Minnesota +3, I'm betting that. That's the first bet of the night for college football. If I don't get it, then I'm not making that bet. So that was that spot. So the next spot is that I'm kind of looking at, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this game is kind of up and down and weird. Jacksonville State plays Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina lost their best quarterback they ever had, so they're kind of starting over, doing a lot of different stuff. That's a team in Myrtle Beach, and playing Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State's a pretty good team. So when you look at this number, where's the number at right now? Because this number's fluctuated a lot. The game opened Jacksonville State -5. It wasn't always -5. It was minus a little more than that in the summertime. Then it went down to -5. Now it's -3. People are betting on Coastal Carolina. And if you listen, so here's another story for you. if you listen to all the pundits out there, please don't. And what I mean by pundits is, if you got a guy you like, great. Then hang out with that guy you like and trust that guy you like. So I know it's going to sound weird. Like for me, I like Brad Powers. Why do I like Brad Powers? I don't like what he bets all the time, but Brad Powers has done his homework, right? He has studied these teams more than probably anybody else, and which is what I do in baseball. So I like the idea that he knows ins and outs of all these teams. So I listen to a lot of stuff to get an idea of the value of certain players, certain teams, certain coaches, certain defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, structural changes. He knows all those things. So I take cues from him and then go and vet those cues to make sure that I like the same train of thought. If not, I don't follow. If he releases a play, I don't go bet it. I listen to what he says, and then I go do my own stuff, which is hopefully a lot of times what you guys do by watching this show. Hopefully I give you enough baseball information and stuff that you go, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. And you go bet that information, then you make your bets the way you want to make your bets. Just because I bet it doesn't mean you have to. So ultimately, guys like me are out here too, that we make bets. If you want to follow our bets, you can. I have a subscription service. It costs you $100. I do that for football. I do that for baseball. I do that for all the sports, and it's all the same. If you spend $100 to get baseball picks, well, you're going to get football picks, and you're going to get basketball picks for the whole year. It's just the way it works. I'm not trying to make money off of this. It just helps run this program and what we're doing with the show and stuff. So, anyway, getting off sidetracked. Getting back to not Kenny White, but getting back to Brad Powers, right? You listen to these guys that have studied the teams more than you have, because ultimately, a lot of times they're going to know ins and outs more than you do. Maybe you live in a certain city and have access to certain things that you know a lot more about certain situations and stuff. If you do, great. I told you guys this yesterday. I need more DMs from you guys. I need more followers from you guys. We need to share information so that we can get ahead of some of this stuff. So if you come across something that comes along your way, let me know about it. I'll look at it and say, oh shit, that's bettable, or it's not. And we can make some money, right? So I'm looking for followers. I'm looking for information. So communication is important, right? So anyway, if you live in those cities, I live near Tampa, so I know a little bit about the Bucks. I know a little bit about the Rays that maybe some people don't know about. So I can bet on those types of scenarios. So anyway, point to all this kind of stuff is take the pundit that you believe in and tune out everything else, because there's a lot of noise in these lanes, a lot of noise. And you'll get confused. You'll go, am I supposed to be betting on this because the line moved? Am I supposed to be betting on this because it didn't? Look, have a plan, have a structure, have a list, right? So for example, that Minnesota game, I'm wanting to get to the 3 in the Minnesota game. I will tell you that Eastern Illinois plays Illinois. The number's plus 27.5. If I can get Eastern Illinois at plus 28, I'm betting Eastern Illinois plus 28. Illinois should not be that big of a favorite over Eastern Illinois. Western Michigan. If I can get Western Michigan at plus 24 or 24, that pisses me off. It was 24.5 yesterday morning, but it was minus 120 at 24.5. Western Michigan, by the way, plays Wisconsin. And Western Michigan is probably the second best team and a sleeper team in the MAC conference. So I think they're going to be pretty good. That being said, Wisconsin hasn't. Let me get my note. Wisconsin hasn't scored I think it was 29 points or more since 2019. Let me pull up that note. Let me make sure I said it right. And then that way I can, come on, man. That way I can get you the right information. Wisconsin. Wisconsin offense hasn't topped 27 points in any season since 2019. So seasonal average. So think about that. Wisconsin hasn't scored as a season more than 27 points since 2019. So not a dynamic offense. And they've got to cover in this game 20 right now it's 23.5. But if you can get it at 24 or 24.5, which could happen as you get closer to kickoff, because people like to bet Wisconsin, the big teams, get it back up there. So I'm kicking myself because it was minus 120. I'm like, let me get it to minus 110. Well, then all of a sudden it was minus 120 at 24.5, and then it went to 23.5. So now I got to wait until it gets to 24.5. So those are some of the spots I'm looking for. Some of the spots that I found and I bet Pittsburgh and Kent State over 54.5. It's now, I think, 55.5. I bet Florida Atlantic plus 14.5. They're playing Michigan State. And that's what's the guy's name? Used to coach Texas, is now coaching Florida Atlantic. Used to be a guy for Ohio State. I got it right here. What's his name? Tom Herman. So Tom Herman's the head coach there, and I think that's a good spot. I think Michigan State is still a couple years away from being good. I mean, we'll see what happens with them, but I'll take Florida Atlantic. I bet Stanford at plus 10, and I had to wait for that because that number was 9.5. I got Stanford plus 10, and I've played Texas A&M on the money line at minus 145 right now. Those are the. I've got 4 bets that I've made in college football. Those are the 4. I'm planning on playing Minnesota plus 3. I'm planning on playing East Illinois plus 28. I'm planning on playing Western Michigan. I want to play Clemson at 14 or better. I don't want to play them at 13, 13.5. And I think everybody also gets caught up in, Georgia, Ohio State. That's where they get caught up in. And how good is Georgia? Well, Georgia's not as good as they were last year. I mean, I get it. They got a good quarterback and all this stuff. But they lost a lot. Their offense, defense, they're not the same team. And I think they take a little bit of a step back. Not major step back? No. A little bit of step back, sure. I think Clemson's going to be a little better than what they have been. And they're a top, 10, top 15 defense. So I like the idea that you're going to have a spot here where if you can get 14 points, that's probably pretty good. Plus you got a seasoned quarterback and a head coach that's been around the block a little bit, and you got quality players. So I like that spot. And here's another spot that I think. So if you guys, I said this at the beginning of the season when football stuff came out. I know people go and they buy Phil Steele and they look at Phil Steele's book and they think it's the Bible, and that's great. He does a lot of work, and that's good for the game. But here's what I'm going to tell you: if everybody has the same information, and you're betting all off the same information, then the numbers are never going to be in your favor. So, for example, Florida plays Miami this week. University of Florida plays Miami of Florida. It's a big rivalry game. It's in Florida. It's the swamp and it's all that stuff, right? And there's a lot of hoopla around both schools, to be honest. And everybody's saying, well, Florida's really good, but they play the hardest schedule in college football. So that team is being undervalued at home against Miami. Because Miami's an away favorite. So I bring up all of this because there's other ways to look at things. And what you want to do is you want to get some analysis that you feel good about, that you trust. And pick six has been really good. This is Brett Ciancia. Well, I don't know how to say his name, Ciancia. And there's a couple things that he does that's really cool. He's going to be able to tell you a little bit about the coaches, and not only about the coaches, but how they develop staff and players, and how those players go on to either become NFL players and or how they go and become better scoring team. The other thing that I thought was interesting when I was reading about some of the stuff in here, when it comes to the University of Miami, and I get it, nobody likes the head coach at Miami, and so forth. But here's what was done from, I think, what's his name, Cristobal, right? So he came in and he didn't just start going out and getting all these flashy players. He spent a lot of time working on offense, defensive line. This season, those guys are mature. He's got an offense and defensive line that's tops in the country. Not best, but they're right up there. They're in the top and the best in the country for Miami. They got a transfer quarterback. It's coming in from Washington State, who's really good. Probably the best transfer quarterback that was on the market. They got him. They got the best transfer running back from Oregon State. Johnson, right? What's his name? Johnson, I think. 1,000-yard rusher, Martinez. Big back, big running back. And they already got wide receivers. So this is a dynamic offense with a great offensive line. And they got great defensive players. And what I like is this is a guy who's not afraid to go out there and tell you that Miami's the best team in the ACC. See right here, number one in the ACC, number 10 in all of football. So I like the idea that you have divergent information, and it's divergent in a sense that you can go vet it and it makes sense. And then you go and say, well, I saw Florida State play. Everybody else had Florida State ahead of Miami. There ain't no way Florida State's better than Miami. So Clemson's going to play, and that's Miami and Clemson. I'll take Miami over Clemson. And I think Miami then is the best team in the ACC. And I think that Miami goes in and Miami beats Florida. But the way to bet this game is let all the talk and hoopla go for Florida and then go bet the game on the money line. Right now, yesterday it was minus 150 for Miami. Today it's minus 140. I might wait until tomorrow and see if it hits 130, 135, but I'm not going to let it get much lower than that. Then I'm going to go bet it. I'm going to go bet Miami on the money line. So I'm just giving you guys some food for thought on some of these games. I am going to bet Georgia Southern. They play Boise State, and if I can get them at 14, right now they're 13.5. If I can get them at 14, I'm going to be doing that. And here's another game. I know Jay Barry's interested in this one because I've seen some of his articles and some of the stuff he's written, and talking about West Virginia. I think the number when it was 10 or above 10.5, I think it might have been a good spot to be betting on West Virginia. Well, last time I looked, the number was 7.5. Penn State's a good football team. They're a better football team than West Virginia. I get it. West Virginia at home, it's tough, it's dynamic, it's they're sort of backyard brawlish kind of spots. But if you can get Penn State at 7, you got to bet Penn State. Just, I think if it's still available at 7.5 tomorrow, I'll probably bet it at 7.5 tomorrow because I don't think it'll go much lower than that. Because I think 8 will be kind of 8.5 might be where it ends up. But if I can get them at 7.5, I'll do that. But I can wait. Be patient there. So you want to. I think that the theory going into week 1 is bet as many underdogs as you can and bet unders as much as you can. There's spots that teams are going to run into for the following weeks. Texas plays nobody this week. It's a big spread. It's like 40 points or something. But they play Michigan the week after. So do you think they really want to go out and show Michigan everything they got? So they're going to be more generic, more whatever. So they're not going to try to run up the score. They might. It's one of those spots where they got a Manning as the backup quarterback, so they want him to get out there and play, and they're not going to let him just hand the ball off. They'll throw the ball around a little bit. So maybe they score some with him out there to run up the number. But there's going to be spots where these teams are way more generic, and they just want to go out and get their feet wet, get the guys their first game experience, and get things under their belt. So anyway, hopefully that helps you guys a little bit on some of the college football that we're looking for. I'm not sure. Normally on Thursday I don't do a show. I'll play it by ear a little bit, and if I have a reason to jump on here and do a college football show, there's not the greatest of games on Thursday. I'll certainly do our Friday show. Will be a big show. It'll be a big show for absolute plays that I made, absolute picks that I think you should make for college football, and obviously certainly baseball. So good luck tonight, guys. Hopefully things work out for us, and we have another great night. Guys, we had 225 people on here tonight. It's awesome. But please do me these favors, right? Really, I say this every time, and it just doesn't happen. But if you really want to help me, you want to help the show, you want to grow everything, you want to communicate, look, follow me on Twitter, start sending me DMs, start communicating, talk. Look, I do this for a living. I don't go anywhere other than, my office, right? I go to the pool, I go do other stuff, I run errands, I do Halloween and, make up all these things. But the reality is we need networks, right? So I need people to be part of my networks. I need information. I want to share information to you guys, right? I want all these things to be happening. So to do that, follow me on Twitter. I don't think all 225 people watching this show are following me on Twitter. So retweet the show out so we get more and more and more following. Like the show, make comments after the show's over. Retweet all that stuff out because I make comments and retweet. That helps us grow. It goes from 225 to 250 to 300 people, right? And then all of a sudden we're out here going, hey, we got another sponsor. And then all of a sudden we're paying producers. And then all of a sudden we got slideshows and all kinds of great stuff instead of just seeing my ugly mug, right? All that stuff is important. So I know I say it all the time. Nobody does it, guys. I shouldn't say nobody. I've seen Jay. I've seen some of our guys that follow WSN, for example, Mr. Jenkins. He's not on here today. Big John Stud. I've seen those guys retweeting certain things and stuff. But please do that stuff because it really, really, really matters, and it really, really, really helps the show. Secondly, if you want to become a member, a client, follow what I play, see the data and stuff that I come up with and the stuff that I do. Just go sign up. Go to the website. People haven't done that for a while, and my website gets lonely every once in a while. So MLB-data.com. Go there. There's a link. Click it at the top. Memberships. So it's $100 for the whole for everything. It's like, come on, it's a no-brainer. And lastly, guys, I really appreciate it. Got great comments in today. Daniel Berry, Sports Highlights. He's on here every day. Says hello. WSN today was great. Jay Berry asking, questions about the games. Look, just ask. I've got it all handicapped already before I jump on the show. I just talk about stuff that I think is interesting or where I think there's a possibility of plays. You may ask me about certain things, and maybe we'll come up with other stuff. You can ask me football questions. You can ask me baseball questions. Just don't ask me basketball yet because I'm that's too far down the road. All right, guys, let's have a great afternoon. Let's enjoy the night. Let's make some wins. Planning on being here Friday, 6:15. Not planning on being here tomorrow, but we'll play that by ear and see if anything pops up. Guys, have a great night, and I will talk to you later. Thanks for being here.